afternoon. Hey, this segment is on the Northwest Ordinance. I'm pretty excited to bring it to you finally. Hopefully I'll do a good job and you enjoy this. I'll try to keep this to within 10 minutes. It may go a little further or not, but hopefully you'll stay with me throughout the video. Okay, so I've spoke about this before many times about the Northwest Ordinance, and I've explained many times, and will do so again here for first-time viewers, what the Northwest Ordinance is, why it's important, how it dispels the myth of the slavery in the settlers, and puts the blame squarely on where it belongs, which is not Americans. I understand and I get it about the whole racist slavery thing, but that argument is not with Americans. It is with England, it is with Spain, and it is with the French. I will prove that. I will go into some details, and so let's get on with it. Okay, before we can get on with first things first, in 1493, what preceded the Northwest Ordinance was a decree document by the Pope. It was Pope Alexander VI. And when the information was learned about the New World and what was all there to be had, the Pope, who had a lot of power and clout, had the ear of the king, put down a decree, and stated by no short terms that the new land will be settled and the savages extinguished and done away with. Well, who were the savages? The savages to these clowns was the American Indians. The document that was put forth, and it's on record, is known as Papal Bull, the Intercerta Act of 1493. It was authored by Pope Alexander VI. And this was the way of things going forward. This wasn't a bunch of white guys coming over just to bash the heads in of the Native Americans. No. This was an order given by the government, and in particular, the church of all things, to do exactly that. Come in, rape the land, and do away with the savages. So, this is not an argument with Americans. Americans didn't want this. The argument is with the Democrats today as the same as it was with the Crown or the British, the French, and the Spanish. So moving forward, now we're into a war with the British. The war goes from 1774, give or take, to 1781. We know that the Spaniards, the French, and what the English are doing to the Indians. So what do? We kind of backdoor them. We set up a treaty with the Indians. And the treaty is known as the Intercourse and Trade Act of 1778. So in other words, the war isn't even over yet. And we're seeing opportunity here that, you know what, we're going to win this war. We're going to kick these guys out. And we're going to have to live with the Native Americans. So we might want to start setting up some treaties with them so we can be good neighbors with them. This is why it makes no sense that they just came over here and raped all the land. If that was true, then we wouldn't be setting up these acts. So now that treaty ends, that treaty is written, and now we put in place the Northwest Ordinance. The Northwest Ordinance establishes a democratic process on how to expand the borders, particularly in the Northwest where the Spaniards are hanging out. The Indians don't like the Spaniards at all. So they're helping us to expand the land because we have agreements with them. Look, we'll treat you right. Now, in order for these lands to become first a territory, then a state, there were some criteria that had to be met. Let me tell you what that criteria is. That criteria was, once the land hit 5,000 settlers, they can take a non-elected delegate and send him to Washington to petition for territorial rights. In the next step comes statehood. In statehood, once the territory hits 60,000 settlers, then they could take an elected delegate, send them to Washington, and petition for statehood. The criteria in order to have statehood is pretty strict at the time, but it's sensible today. that criteria was, if you want to become a state, you have to allow freedom of worship. If you want to become a state, you have to have an educational system put in place to teach the kids. If you want to become a state, you must abide by and agree with tribal law and bring no harm to the American Indians. That is built into the Northwest Ordinance. Also, to make sure that stayed on check, there was the Indians Affairs Office, where a delegate from the Indian tribes of the Northwest, there was like 5 nations, the Chippewa, the Mohawks, there was all of these nations, okay, that would meet with a United States government delegate to discuss any problems with the settlers. If there were a problem, they would deal with it. So it was a very easy transition. And there was a process put in place that if things were to get out of hand, the Indians and the Americans collaborated, okay, to rectify those problems. Because while we could do away with government tyranny by law, you can't do away with individual tyranny. I mean, there's no political solution to telling somebody they have to like somebody. So that needs to be understood. The last and most important criteria was, if you want to become a state or a territory, you cannot have slavery, period. We just got done with a war with England in 1781. And by 1790, we passed a law that no slavery would be enforced by the federal government. Now, because the 13 colonies were already established and up and operating under the British rule, okay, and this was sort of the way of life now, we could not really do anything about that yet because they were already up and operational, and those colonies or states were protected by the 10th Amendment. So while the federal government said, okay, no more slavery, we want nothing to do with this, the states can still operate independently. But going forward, once we were able to make the rules now, meaning the Northwest Ordinance, that was one of the first things that we put down as a marker that there's not going to be any slavery going forward. So I hope you found this little tidbit of information interesting. I hope that you found it informative. Again, the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, that'll be up at the end of the video. And also the Papal Bull, the Intisera Act of 1493, which, as I said, the annihilation of the American Indians and the land grab is with the French, the Spanish, and the British. Americans had nothing to do with it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it gave you a little bit of information that you can research, and I hope that you do. Thanks. Bye-bye.